If you thought the Middle Ages had already shown all their bizarre side, get ready. Because we're back with the second part of 5 bizarre and even disgusting things that happened in the Middle Ages. If you haven't seen the first part yet, don't worry. And a link is in the description and comments. But you can watch it later because what's coming next will make your stomach churn right now. Imagine wars fought with rotting bodies, medicines made with animal brains, and a justice system that, well, guaranteed that no one would get out alive. Did you think you'd seen it all? Think again. Now hold your breath and come with me. You're trapped in a city. No food, no hope. Just the sound of your own stomach eating itself alive. Days pass, then weeks. The smell of death thickens in the air. Your comrades collapse one by one, and then someone has an idea. A terrible, desperate, horrifying idea. Welcome to Ma'arat al-Numan, 1098. The Crusaders had marched for months, dreaming of victory, glory, and maybe a warm meal. But when they reached the Syrian city, they found something else entirely. An enemy that wouldn't surrender. A siege began. Supplies ran out. Hunger gnawed at their sanity. And then in the shadows of desperation, humanity cracked. At first, it was just whispers. What if? No one dared say it out loud. Not yet, but soon the bodies piled up, and the living were starving. The transformation was slow, almost reasonable. First they ate their horses, then stray dogs, then rats. But hunger doesn't negotiate. It doesn't care about honor, faith, or morality. One night someone, no one knows who, crossed the final line. A corpse was carved up, cooked, eaten, and once that line was crossed, it disappeared. Completely. Soon they weren't just eating the dead. They were hunting the living. Eyewitnesses described scenes straight out of a nightmare. Crusaders roasting human flesh over open flames, chewing on the remains of their fallen enemies, and sometimes their own allies. And the worst part? Some claim they started to like it, and then just like that, the horror ended. Reinforcements arrived. The Crusaders broke through the city's defenses, slaughtering what was left of the enemy. But by then, something had already changed. Something inside them. They left Ma'arat victorious, but forever haunted by what they had become. So, the question remains, when faced with true starvation, what would you be willing to eat? Or who? You're accused of a crime. Maybe someone doesn't like you. Maybe you looked at them funny. Maybe you actually did something. Doesn't matter. Because now justice will decide your fate. Fair trial? A lawyer? Evidence? Nah. Instead, they're taking you to a murky, stinking pond. Welcome to the medieval justice system. The rules were simple. You were tied up and thrown into the water. If you floated, congratulations. You were guilty and promptly executed. If you sank, you were innocent, but also very, very dead. In other words, you had two options, a quick execution or a slow, watery grave. Fun, right? This was called trial by water. And believe it or not, people actually thought it worked. The logic, water was pure. It rejected the wicked. So if the water spat you out, aka you floated, it meant you were in league with the devil. If you drowned, oops, guess you were innocent after all. Sorry about that. But here's the real kicker. Some victims actually survived. Maybe. They were strong swimmers. Maybe the ropes weren't tied tight enough. Maybe sheer panic gave them superpowers. Whatever the reason, some poor souls managed to drag themselves onto shore, gasping for air, only to be greeted by a mob with torches, ready to finish the job. Because hey, if you didn't drown, you were clearly guilty. And witches, oh, they really got the worst of it. In the height of the witch hunts, women were dragged from their homes, accused of dark magic, and tossed into rivers like unwanted. Sacks of potatoes, if they floated, burn them. If they drowned, well, at least their souls were clean. Hundreds, maybe thousands died this way. All because of a belief that justice could be found at the bottom of a filthy, disease-ridden pond. So next time you complain about the legal system, just remember, at least no one's tying you up and throwing you into a swamp. Yet. You wake up coughing. your throat burns, your chest hurts. In today's world, you'd reach for cough syrup or see a doctor. But in the Middle Ages, oh, they had a very different solution. Drink this, they said. It'll help. You peer into the cup. The wine seems thicker than usual. A strange smell lingers, earthy, metallic, almost wrong. You take a sip, a piece brushes your tongue. You choke. Ah, yes, the healer says proudly. Oh, this is fox brain, freshly ground. Welcome to medieval medicine. Back then, people believed that every disease had a cure, if only you were brave enough to drink it. Coughing a lot. Clearly, your lungs needed a little animal intelligence. So the doctors, if you can call them that, recommended the perfect solution. Powdered fox brain, carefully mixed with wine. Because nothing says medical breakthrough like run over Merlot. The logic? Foxes were smart, quick. If you consumed a fox's brain, some of that cleverness would infiltrate your body, helping you fight off disease. You'd overcome coughing. You'd overcome death itself. Except you wouldn't. Instead, you'd probably develop a whole new set of problems. Food poisoning, infections, maybe a nice case of medieval parasites. But hey, at least you weren't coughing anymore. Probably because you were too busy vomiting. And fox brains were just one of the many nightmare cures people happily drank. Got a headache? Try crushed human skull powder. Sore throat? Swallow some mercury. Plague? Bathe in urine. Makes modern medicine look pretty good, doesn't it? So the next time you complain about the taste of cough syrup, be thankful it doesn't have bits of brain floating around in it. Or does it? Ash perfume, a delicate luxury, a symbol of wealth, elegance, and in the Middle Ages, life or death. Yes, you read that right. Back then, people believed that smells could kill. The stench of filth and decay wasn't just unpleasant, it carried disease. The Black Death, they thought, spread through bad air, crawling into the lungs of anyone unlucky enough to breathe it. But where there was a problem, there was always a solution. Enter the perfumers, masters of scent, alchemists of the nose. They promise salvation in a bottle, fragrant oils, exotic spices, and floral waters, all designed to purify the air around you. The logic? If death came through bad smells, then good smells would ward it off. So people bathed in perfume. They drank it. They put scented cloths over their mouths and nostrils. Doctors walked the streets with beaked masks filled with lavender. And cloves, convinced they were protected. But what about some perfumers? They saw a different kind of opportunity. Because if a pleasant smell could save you, a mortal could kill. Rumors spread about perfumers mixing something extra into their concoctions. Arsenic, cyanide, belladonna, a touch on the wrist, a mist in the air, and within hours their victims would pass out, their deaths attributed to disease. The perfect crime. No injuries, no blood, just a lingering scent of roses and death. Whispers of these poison perfumers reached the nobility. Were they real? Just paranoia? It didn't matter. Fear was enough. Some rulers banned scented gloves. Others forced their tasters to inhale before they did. Picture this. You're standing on the walls of your city. The enemy is surrounding you. Supplies are running low. Morale is even lower. But at least the walls are strong, impenetrable. The Mongols won't get in. Then you hear a whistle in the air. Something is flying towards you. It's not an arrow. It's not a fireball. It's a corpse? It lands in the streets with a sickening thud. The stench hits you instantly, a wave of death and decay. And then another flies over the walls. And another. And another. This wasn't just war. It was a plague war. The year was 1346, the Mongol army had besieged Kaffa, a bustling trading city on the Crimean Peninsula. But as they camped outside the walls, something else began to kill them. The Black Death. One by one, the Mongol soldiers collapsed, their bodies covered in swollen, pus-filled boils. That should have been the end of the siege. But the Mongols had one final move. Why waste a perfectly good army of corpses? Using massive catapults, they hurled their own dead over the city walls, turning Kaffa into a nightmare of disease. The living walked among the rotting, the air thick with infection. Within days, the city was drowning in plague. Those who tried to flee took the disease with them across the sea to Europe, starting one of the deadliest pandemics in history. Yes, you heard that right. Some historians believe that this act of medieval biological warfare may have helped unleash the Black Death in Europe, killing as many as 50 million people, a single siege, a few hundred corpses, a plague that reshaped the world. So, after all this, do you still think you would have survived the Middle Ages? Which of these bizarre things was the worst for you? Tell me in the comments because I want to know which one made you feel the most sick. And if you like this video, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next ones. There are a lot of bizarre and shocking things coming. Oh, and don't forget the first part of this video is in the description and in the comments. If you haven't watched it yet, go ahead and continue this journey through the most disgusting side of history. See you in the next one.